Welcome to this Microsoft Word course set at the intermediate level. The course contents are as follows. We'll have a look at tables, looking at beginner, so creating a basic table, all the way to advanced where we're doing formulas and functions. Then we'll look at calculations in tables, hyperlinks and bookmarks. Then a look at mail merge, table of contents and index and referencing, followed by searching for keywords and track changes. So first of all, tables. You can see here there's a complicated table with formulas. We'll be having a look at those, how to do those, starting off with the basics. Then calculations outside of tables, so you can do calculations in a Word document, not inside a table. Then we'll look at how to create bookmarks and hyperlinks to those bookmarks. As you can see there, there's an example of a bookmark. Following on from bookmarks, we'll look at mail merge, simple mail merge for a letter and an envelope, and then more complicated ones. Next section is table of contents. We'll have a look at that with index references as well. We'll also look at the search feature where you can look up the meaning of a word and it will come up with some information. And the last section is going to be track changes with comments. Each section will have a consolidation exercise where you will have to create something or use files that are part of this course that you should have and carry out the instructions within the exercise. The exercises are just practice, so there's no tests involved. There's no pass or fail. If you can't remember how to do it, just go back and look over the video and check again. And that will be the process throughout all the sections. Following on from this section is the first part of the course. In this module, I want to have a look at tables. How to create a table, the basic tables, how to embed tables and link tables. First of all, let's have a look at a basic table. So on the Insert tab, you have this option, Tables, and when you drop the arrow down, you have several ways, different ways to create a table. So I'll just quickly go through a couple of those. First one is you just move your mouse over this gridded area and click, and then that will produce the table depending on whichever size that you created. If I undo that one, Control Z. Second one, Insert Table. You go into this option where you are getting a box and it's asking you for the dimensions for your table. Same sort of thing appears. Undo that one. Next one, Table. You can draw a table where you get a pencil on the screen. You draw the outside elements first, and then you can go from top to bottom to draw a line, and then you can go across for a row, and you can even go diagonal both ways if you want, like so. And then click Draw Table off, and then you get rid of that little tool. So I'll just undo that one. Next one, Table, Spreadsheet. This is an Excel spreadsheet. So what you get here is a spreadsheet and Excel embedded into Word, which is great if you want to do some simple calculations. Alt equals is a key command for sum in Excel. If I just click away from that now back into Word, you can see that that's an embedded spreadsheet. And if I double click back into Excel, go to the View tab and take the grid lines off so you can't see the grid lines, and you can actually make this box smaller if you don't need a large area because it is using up memory, and then come back into Word. So it sits there embedded in. It does use a bit more memory, but there you go. That's a quick way. And go back in there, change one of these figures, and it recalculates, and then you click out. So that's quite cool. You can actually do that in Word, which I'll show you in a second. I'll just get rid of all that. And the next one is these quick tables, which are preset formats, layouts, if you like, that are already there for you to click on and have a start point. Obviously, you put your text in here. It's just giving you the actual layout. So I'll undo that. So first off, we're going to create a basic table and go through some of the features that you've got in a table. So I'll go 4 by 4 and what you have is a little indicator in the top left hand corner which you can click on to select the whole table, and a little box in the bottom right hand corner which you can drag to enlarge all of these cells together or make them smaller, whichever you want to do. And then you click into a cell. When you click into a cell on the ruler, if you've got the ruler activated, and you should always have the ruler activated, view ruler, you can see you have got indent markers, left indent, right indent, and then these little column markers, these little square blocks. So you can actually move those columns to resize those columns, and if you hold your Alt key down while you're doing that, you'll get the measurements coming up on the ruler. So you can get the same measurements. The same thing will apply on the rows. Down this left hand side you can adjust the rows, and again if you hold the Alt key down you get the measurements, which is a bit more difficult to see. If you have to set a table up with precise measurements, that's what you can do. There are also features at the top here that you can use to set that up, because as soon as you add a table you get these tabs, table design and layout, appearing. So you can set the width and heights of the whole table from there. For example, so if I say I want this to be that be 1 centimeter, say, by 2 centimeters, then you can set it from there. So you don't need to manually change this. I'll just undo that so it goes back to what it was on, which I can't remember exactly what it was, but that looks about right. So when you type, so let's do some titles. So name, you press your tab key to move across to the second column. Name, department, just do a deep depth, date, and email. No, let's not do email, let's do salary. And then you press tab again to come down, and then you can start filling it in. So I'm just pressing my tab key to come across. In fact, I'm not going to have date because it's going to take too long to type. What can I have there? Tell number. Then I can just type some random stuff in there. Same with salary. Do the pounds. Press tab again. So just type 3 people. They're both in the sales department. Different telephone number on different amounts. And then the last person can be Jones. He's in retail. Put a different telephone number and is on a different amount of money. So that's how you type it in. And now if you want an extra row, you don't need to worry about inserting rows at the top and things like that. Press the tab key again and you get an extra row and you just carry on. I will leave that there because I'm going to use it later on. Now, under table design, you've got lots and lots of different color schemes and design types, but I tend to not use those and do it myself. So if I highlight the whole row, this little toolbar comes up with some cool features that I can use. So let's make that grey, and let's say I want everything bold and everything centered on that top line. Everything else can stay the same. Now, if you decide you want to sort this table in alphabetical order, for example, if you go to the layout tab, you've got a sort option, and when you click on sort, it gives you this sort of box. So you've got sort by name, which is what I want, and then we'll do it by department. It will only go to these, and then salary. It will only go to these second columns if there's a duplicate, and there isn't a duplicate, so it's just going to stay there. But it would do that for this column if I'd sorted that on department. I'll just click OK to that. It's put the blank column at the top, which is great. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So right click, delete rows. So what I did there was I just went into the margin, which is the selection area. Same for a paragraph. Right click, delete row. For now, I'll add that later on. Now I want to quickly add a row. Now to add a row, you can see as I move my mouse to the edge, I get a plus. If I click that, it'll give me a plus, a new row, and it's picking up the format from the top, which means if I type, it'll be bold. But I don't want that, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Right click, delete row again. There's lots of different ways of deleting things. You've got delete at the top there, you've got insert above and below, insert left and right, lots of different ways. but I want to insert above, so I'm highlighting the top row and then right clicking insert above, rows above, to give me a complete row above, which does want to be in the same format that I've got there. Then I'm highlighting that because I want to merge and center these, make that into one cell. And then I'm going to do a title, which is going to be accounts department, and that'll do. Now I want to split this off. So you've got split cells, which will split a cell into two. You've also got split table, which will split this table into two. So if I click on there, on the line below where I want the split, and then I split the table, it will give me the option to split table like that. And then maybe you can do a title in the middle, whatever you want to call it, staff details 2020. Now that is aligned, center aligned within the page, not the table. So your table, my table is not going to the edge, which is a mistake I've made, but it doesn't matter for this. You can, before I split that, I should have pulled that to the edge, but I didn't, so that's my fault. Now, if you want to add these rows on every printed page, which at the moment there's no need because it's only a few, but let's say you had lots of records. I'm just going to hold my tab key down to go down to the bottom of a second page. Well, just before I get to the bottom of the second page actually, and then I'm going to highlight that row, and then what you've got on layout is rows to repeat at the top, header rows. So if I click that, that'll hopefully work for me. On the second page, if I carry on going down, holding the key down, when I get to the second page, you can see the rows repeat at the top, and they will appear on every single printed page. Just clicking Control Z a million times to get back up to the top. Now you can also put numbers. If I highlight the whole table and go back to home, you can put a numbered list on there, 1, 2, 3, but it puts it on everything. I don't want that. Control Z, undo. So if I just highlight the first column, I just want the numbers on the actual names, 1, 2, 3. And then what's really cool, if you highlight that row and move rule to the top, he becomes number 1 and Jones becomes number 2. Now I know I've messed up the sort there, but what I'm trying to show you there is that the numbered list just resorts itself, which is what I wanted it to do. Now in each of these cells, you can see, as I've already said, you've got a left and right indent. So if I just pull that one across, you can see what that does. I'll just push it back again. So this is like a mini little document, and there's the right one. And in there you can also put tabs. So let's put a center tab in there. Center tab, that's the right tab. I want a center tab. Oh, I went past it. Center tab, put it in there, and then when you press tab, you see what happened on there. It just jumped to the next cell. So if I wanted this retail to be on that tab, press tab, it just jumped to the next cell. So what I need to do is hold my control key down and press tab, and then it will just go there. Now depending on which version of Word you've got, sometimes the newer versions will go to the tab, but this one is not. It's just going straight across, tab to the next cell. So for me to utilize that tab, I would have to do Control and tab, and it will go there, and then tab again after that. Just tab on its own, it will carry on going to the next cell as you'd expect. So that's the basic table. Now what can you do in terms of table design formatting? I've already done the shading on the right mouse button, but you can shade individual cells. You can put borders on individual cells. So you've got border styles. You've got different borders. So I can put all borders is already on, but if I take the borders off, for example, no border on that cell, but you can still see a dotted line. If you go to layout, you've got view grid lines. So for example, if I take all of the lines off, if I go back to designs and go no borders, so there's no borders on, but you can still see those dotted lines. If I do print preview for a second, Control P, you can't see, they're not going to print, so there's no lines on there. And if I go to get back into my table, if I go to layout, I can take the view grid lines off, and then you don't even see the grid lines. Not recommended, I don't think. I think you probably do want to see the grid lines because it's not going to affect the print preview. And then you can, if I go back to the borders, you can change the border color, border width, border style, pen color, put red on there for example, and then what you do to the borders thereafter will take these settings. So for that cell I've clicked on there. If I change this back to something smaller and a different color, let's go for blue. You probably won't see blue, can't see blue, it's too thin, but you get the idea. You can basically change the criteria for each of these cells here, and then you apply it through the borders box, and then it's applied to whichever cell or cells you've got selected. And I've already told you can move that. Now to delete all of this, when I click on this, selects a table, press delete, nothing happens. Just deleted the text, which is strange. Delete, nothing happened. Right click, cut, disappears. And that's basically what you have to do. Cut the table out of the way, get rid of everything. So what I want to do is do a draw table. So insert tables, draw a table, and just go through some of those features again, just to show you that you can do all of this. Draw a few columns like so, and then a few rows. So usually when you draw a table, you don't get things accurate the first time, so you do probably need to use, if I take the draw off, you've got the eraser if you make a complete mess of it. But you've got, if I highlight these three columns for example, you've got distribute rows and distribute columns evenly, so that made them even. And if I come down and do the same for the rows, if I just highlight these rows, distribute rows, that makes them all nice and even. Now if I type my name in one of these cells, it sits in the top left hand corner, but you've got these 9 different options of alignment, so you can position this wherever you want, like that. However, if I press enter, let's see what happens now. So what's happening now is it's not going in the center, because if I put show hide on, show hide, it's got a line space there, so that will not center until I get rid of that, and now it's centering. Look, take the show hide off. So if you ever have a problem with aligning text within a box, have a quick look at show hide to see if there's nothing else being pressed. Nobody's pressed enter basically. It's not a great thing if somebody has in a table. You've got text direction, so you can spin this around. So basically if you wanted to put income in there and you want that to go on its end, whichever way, and then you've got still got the center buttons, so you can put that in the middle, and then you can create a table like so. So it's quite easy to create a very dynamic looking table. You've got auto fit features there for a particular part of the table. Coming across here, you've got all different things. And properties, if you go into properties, you can set the table where it sits in terms of text. So it's on the left margin at the moment, but you can put it in the center, the table in the center if you want. I will put that on there. Let's just see what that does. So let's just move that across a little bit. Go back in there. You've got wrap text around, and then you've got row information, which you've also got there, column and cell, which is all this sort of stuff I've just been doing there. So if you can't find it on the ribbon, go into properties. Table design is all about colouring in really. We've already gone through that. Now let's get rid of all this. So I'll click on the top left hand. Oh, before I do that, one more thing. You can insert a table inside a table. So if I go insert table, you can create things like that. So you've got like a little ticky boxes if you want to put insert a tick box in there, or whatever it is, some options you might want to do. So I'll just delete that one off, get rid, cut, if I can get it, cut, and cut that one. And then I want to do one more little table. I'll just do a 3x3 table, so let's call it name, and then we'll have Steve and Bob. That's only because it's easier to type. Salary, and then we'll just give them some figures. Pounds 21,000 and pounds 21. Don't know why he's got more. I want an extra row underneath that, and then we can have totals. And what we can have there is annual. No, not annual, monthly. Just to show you some formulas you can do here. So if I want to add up these two salaries, I showed you earlier on that you can embed a Word document, but you don't actually need to do that because you've got formula options in Word itself. So if I click on formula on the right there, it defaults to sum above, and then you've got a number format like so. I want it like that. There are functions you can use as well, not many, but there are a few. Now the big difference between this and Excel is it is not dynamic, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If I click OK to that, that's worked that out. So therefore the formatting on these top two should be similar, otherwise it looks a bit odd. And then if you change that, so if I give myself a pay rise, so I've gone up to 25,000, in Excel that would have automatically updated, but in Word you have to use the F9 key, which updates fields, to update that information. So I'm just going to press F9, the F9 function key, and then that recalculates. If I just do undo, so it was on 42, redo, it's now on 46. So that's a downer, but it's not a massive downer. So you can create lots of templates with formulas in, and when you print things off, you can set it up so it updates fields, or you could just have a macro button to update fields, or just remember to do F9. In this cell, I just want to divide that by 12, so you don't need to use the sum function. I can just do the formula in there. So I don't want sum left, so I'll just get rid of the sum left, and I need to refer this as, that's column A, column B, and that's row 1, row 2, so that is cell B2, so it's going to be equals B2 divided by 12, and that's all I want to do. And then paste the number format in, and then click OK. So it's divided that. Now I can't, in Excel I would be able to pull this down and it would automatically dynamically look at that B3, but in Word it is not dynamic as I've already said. So what you have to do is copy it, which is what I've done, and then go back into this and change that to B3. And now you can only do that if you've got it highlighted like I've got there. OK, and then that's divided that by 12. Now if I do Alt F9, you can see the codes, the formulas, so you could have done that and edited it there. And I'll do Alt and F9 again and bring it back. And then you can just do sum above for this. So I'll just do the formula again, and it's automatically picks sum above. You set the number format, you click OK, and then that adds that up. And as they change, you'll have to F9 this. Now if I insert a column at the end of here, and let's just say bonus, just one last thing. Let me do a formula that will look at this salary of 25 and say bonus is going to be 10% of that, or yeah, 10% of that. So that is going to be an if statement. So back into there, I need to get rid of sum left and paste the function if. So it's going to be cell B2. So if B2 is greater than 20,000, comma, look at B2 and times it by 10%, 0.1, otherwise 0. So if it's not greater than that, they don't get a bonus, like so. So obviously that would be sales, not salary in this case. But if I click OK to that, he gets a bonus. If I reduce this to 19,000 and then copy this formula down, this guy should not get a bonus because it's not true. But I'll have to go and edit that to say B3. B3, and that one's going to be B3 as well. Click OK. He gets 0 bonus, which is correct. Now if I highlight the whole table, because that figure is not correct, and so now there's this one because they haven't been updated, and then do the F9, everything should be updated, and it did. So if I give him, let's say, goes over again, all I now need to do is click on that, do the F9, and everything should update. And the last thing there is a formula to add those two up, which is already there, sum above, and then you paste the format, and there it is. So that's it. That's all I want to talk about on tables. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, and thank you for your time. In this module we're going to look at calculations in Word. First of all, calculations within a table. So here we go, insert table, just create a small table, that should do. So if I have some figures there and I want to add those figures up, I go to layout, and then at the very end on the right you have formula, and the default option is sum above, and then you have some number formats that you can select. So I'll select this number format, click OK, and then that adds them up. However, this is not Excel, so if I change a figure, this does not automatically update. So to get that to update, you need to update fields. You can do that with the F9 function key, which I just did there. So if I just delete some figures, highlight the total at the bottom, press the F9 function key, and then it should update. Like so. Now that's a straightforward sum, so if I add some more figures in this column, come down, so I can do sum above there again, number format. Okay. Now on this one, let's say that I want to add these two together or take one from the other. So if I make that slightly bigger, it works like this. You go to formula, but obviously I don't want to sum left. So what I need to do is go equals and then reference these cells. So these cells work in a similar way to Excel in that this is column A, column B, column C, row 1, row 2, row 3. So this sum would need to say A1 minus B1. Change the format, click OK, and then you get the answer. Now on this one, I would like to show you how to do one of the functions that's preloaded in Excel. So again, I get rid of sum above, and I'm going to paste one of the functions that you have preloaded. This is a list of functions. Some of these are familiar to people that use Excel, but this one in particular. So now an if statement works in the same way as it does in all other programs. You have a test, a condition, then a comma, what to do if that test or condition is true, then a comma, what to do if that test or condition is false. So in this one, I'm going to say if A1 is greater than 100, comma, 1, comma, 0. So I would like it to say a 1 or a 0. So in fact I'm doing it on the second line, so it should be A2, not A1. A2, leave the number format, click OK. So that is greater than 100, so it's returning 1. If I change that and then highlight the formula again, do the F9 key, now it's saying 0 because it is not greater than 100. Highlight it again, do the F9 key, it's showing 1. Next one down, let's have a look at a different function. Get rid of sum above, delete, paste the average function. So average, so this example is going to be A3 and B3. So A3 colon B3. What's the average? Click OK. Now if I make that easier to identify the correct result with 150, select F9. 75 is the average of those two. So these are the functions that you can use in a word table. Now the fact that you need to update fields with the F9 key, you can also set update fields on print. It tends to put a lot of people off, but this is a great tool for using when you use Word for quotes or purchase orders or invoices. You can open a template. They've got the formulas already in. They would come in probably like this. If I just delete some of these figures, you wouldn't have any data in these figures. So when you open the template, everything would be blank. If I just select the table, a whole table, and do F9, not going to let me do that. I'm going to have to select it individually. F9. It should let me do that. I don't know why it's not doing that. Now it's letting me do it. Probably just didn't like the whole table. F9. So you would open it like so, fill it in with some figures, and then F9 the formula for it to pick it up. Type some figures, F9, and same with these. Just F9 them. So it would be picking up these, whatever the figures are in there. This one's decided not to work for some reason. Don't know what's happening there. Check this one. F9. So these two, for some reason, are not working. So let's have a quick look. So if A2 is greater than 100, okay, it is working. It's just not changing to 1. That's okay. If I change that to 440, so it would change to 1. Highlight that. F9, that changes. This one doesn't seem to be working, so try F9 again. Go and have a look. A1, oh, it is working. 0, 34, 34. There's a classic mistake. So change that. F9 the formula. Selecting the wrong thing, select that bit. F9. And it does work. So that's how you can set things up using a table. But you can also set things up using bookmarks and fields. So let me just type a title, income, and then I'll just put 200, and then if I highlight the 200 and go up to the insert menu and select bookmark and type income, add, and then if I make a space there, I can insert a field. So insert quick parts and then field, where you can use a formula option, and you've got paste bookmark. So I'll say there's my bookmark, just a simple times 1.1. Click OK, and there you go. So in a report format, you could have narrative coming along. If I just do some, if I've got any auto text on here, no I haven't. If you just type some text in there, and then you can populate the text with fields, and then the fields will update when you press F9. So if I change this to 250, do the F9 key, that would automatically update. So that's an example of formulas in tables and then using formulas in the field option. So I'll just do that field option again. Just type expense and put down 350. So first off, you need to bookmark, insert bookmark, call it expense, add, and then you can then do a formula by going insert field, formula, paste the bookmark, this time expense, and then, in fact, let's do this one, let's try this one, minus income. Okay, there's income 250, expense 350, there's the formula working that out. So if I increase this to say 450 and then F9 that again, it's minus 100, so if I change that to 250, F9 that, 100. Okay, so I've got that the wrong way around in terms of finance. Anybody that's a financial wizard will pick that up straight away, but it doesn't matter, the process is what we're after here. You create the bookmark, then you create the formula looking at the bookmark, and then you can do formulas on multiple bookmarks using that formula option in the field selection formula option, which is the same box that comes up when you do calculations within tables. So that's the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed that and hoping it opened your eyes a little bit to some of the things that you can do in Word. I'll see you on the next one, and thank you for your time. In this module, I want to look at columns, text boxes and tables. But first, columns. Now, to activate columns, you need to go to the Layout tab, and then you have this option, Insert Columns, with different number of columns. I'm going to pick 3, and as long as you've got your ruler activated, and you should have that on anyhow, View Ruler. As long as you've got that activated, you'll see the ruler, the ruler across the top, and on the ruler you can see each column. Now the problem with columns is, first of all, if I start typing some text, so you think now if I want to go into the second column, at the moment I can't do that until I go all the way down to the bottom of this page, and it will come up to the next column, and then all the way down the bottom of that one it will come up to the next column, which is obviously not of much use. What you have to do is you have to use what are called breaks, and column breaks is what we need. So there's the breaks still on the layout page, column break, and that will move us into the middle column, and then you can type away in the middle column. And then if you want to get into the third column, you have to do the same thing again, breaks, column break, and away you go, off you go into that column, typing away. Now let's say that you have finished doing columns and you want to go back to a normal text, a normal document. What you have to do is do another break. So this time you need to do continuous break, and then you have to put the columns back to one column, and then that will allow you to type all the way back across the bottom there as a normal document. So that's how you create columns. And if you're going to use columns, you do need to make sure that you do the breaks, you put the breaks on. Now once you've created a break, as you can see, I can type anywhere now, so maybe the first thing you should do is create the break so you can just jump between each column. Now that's columns. Now to use text boxes, if I just delete this one, Control W that, I don't want to save that, get myself a blank document, Control N. To use text boxes, you just go Insert, Text Box. These are all pre-formatted text boxes, but I'm going to draw one, that one. Just draw a little text box. Now, the benefit of a text box is that you can obviously move this around the screen and you can have multiple text boxes. So quite a lot of people do this. I'm not a fan of this. I think it shows a lack of knowledge, basically because people don't know how to do indents. But people would put an address like this in a text box so that they can position it on the right hand side of the page, like so. Now obviously you would have to get rid of the lines on the text box, so that would be shape outline, no outline, so it doesn't show, but in fact it is a text box, and you can wrap a text box around in other objects and text as well. Now the problem with that is this is like a mini document. You can see you've got your indent markers there, like so. It does come up with spelling mistakes. If you, let's see if I can do a spelling mistake. So it'll still recognize a spelling mistake, but it is independent from the rest of the document. So you've created something like a mini document within a document. I think text boxes are more useful for when you're doing like a newsletter in Word and you want to link and group text boxes like this. If I just pull that one a bit smaller. So if I do a new text box, so insert text box, I'll just draw a couple of thin text boxes so you can see how this would work. I'm just going to try and copy that with my control key down. So I've got my control key, I've copied it. So what you can do with text boxes, which I've shown people before, is you can create a link from one text box to another by clicking on that link and then pouring that little cup of coffee in there. If I click on that one, I'll do that again. Little cup, pour that in. So basically what's going to happen now is wherever you type into the top one, when it gets to the edge, it will wrap over. I need to do a few spaces, so I need to break that one up a little bit, I think. It will flow into the next text box. So this text box, for example, could be on a different page, or it could be on this same page, but you can maneuver it around. And again, you would get rid of the lines, so there was no lines. So in terms of comparing a text box to a column, it might seem a little easier to do it like this, because it's just going to flow over as long as you get them to fit on. Suppose I move that across a bit. And with that, once you take the lines off, you're not going to see the lines, so it'll look exactly the same as a column setup, but obviously it's not a column, like so. Now if you make these boxes bigger, this is where it all goes a bit wrong, because that is now, let me just undo that because I had them both selected. If I make that one a bit bigger, that's going to pull the text back because now that it's not in overflow. So this then wouldn't really work in the way that a column works, where you could just go click into the other one. It only works if you filled up the first column and then it'll go across. So once you start resizing these boxes, it'll pull the text back. So if you want it to lay out like a column, the first one I showed you, text boxes aren't really going to work. And I'm saying to you, try and avoid doing this if you wanted to use a text box for doing that. So this is more to do with, I want to write an article, start writing it, and I want the rest of it to follow through onto, if I make a few spaces there, that'll pull it back into this a little bit. I want this rest of this article to be on a different page. So that's text boxes and columns. Now let's have a quick look at tables. So if I just get rid of all these, in fact I'll just delete the document, Control W, not saving it, Control N, new. With tables, I think you've got more flexibility than either of those two options. So if I just do a 3-column table, which is then sort of representing what we had in terms of columns, so if I type away, it doesn't flow over to the next one, and you can just quickly click into the next cell and type away to your heart's content, and it's not being pulled back through. Obviously that was needed to do a word break there. And if you want extra lines, you just press your tab key, you get extra lines for a table like that. Keep pressing tab, or you can just keep typing down if it's just one. If you just try to replicate the column feature I showed earlier on, and again if you click that, it highlights the whole table, and then you can put no border on, like so. Now the reason you can still see the dotted lines is because I've got view grid lines activated on the layout tab. If I take that off and then click away altogether, you can't see that there's a table there until you click into it. Now I do tend to have view grid lines on so you can see the guides, and it's also the way to get address blocks on the left side and the right side. Quick way of doing it. You can use tabs, but if I go insert table and do 3 again, so I might want to go Mr. S. Saxton on this side and then press tab and then Mr. B. Green on that side, and then come back over to this side and press enter. 1, 2, 3 Belden Lane. I don't live there, by the way. And then tab, go back over to there, press enter, and then 1 Red Road. You can see how you can line things up using a table. So if I just get rid of the lines, again, no border. So that's when you print that off. If I go to Control P for print, you don't see the lines. That's all you see, even though it's in a table. So you could use this option for laying things up on an address, but it's not ideal, again, because that's not right across to the, well, I could move this, I suppose, line it up a bit. But the way I would always do address blocks is none of these ways I've told you. So if I just do Control W, don't save that, Control N for new, I would always, and I suggest you do, is use indent. So I'll move the indent marker across to the 11 centimeter mark, and I type my address, 123 Belden Lane. I don't live there, by the way, before anybody decides to write a letter to me. I lived there when I was 10. So the benefit of indents is that when you're finished, you just clear the indent. Control Q clears the indent, or you can drag the indent back across manually if you want, which I will do. And then you're ready to go. So that is how it should be laid out. It's on the right hand side of the screen, but it's left aligned. So that was a quick look at columns, how to navigate through columns, comparing that with text boxes, and then have a quick look at tables, and then lastly look at a little indent there, how you lay out a letter on the right hand side. Right aligned on the right hand side, left aligned on the right hand side. But that's the end of this session, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next bit. What we're going to look at next is how to create section numbering. That is 1A, 1B, 1C at the bottom of the page, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. Now to do that, I'm going to firstly double click in the footer to activate that, and then just show you what you'd normally do. Normally you would just go to page numbering and drop it in there, puts the number in, and then you can add fields at the end of that and try and get this to work. But in my experience is that is quite difficult, and sometimes it's very frustrating to get it to work. So the best way I think to do it is manually, to do it like this. So I'm just getting rid of that footer there. The way to do it is through this option, Quick Parts. Quick Parts is also on the Insert tab, but basically I want this option, Field. And now in there you've got lots of fields. Normally it would be on all, and you can see there's a big list. I've filtered that down so it's just showing numbering. Now what I want is the section number. So you've got section there, so it says there, insert the number of the current section. I don't want this option, which is, the wording of that's slightly confusing. That just gives you a total number of pages within a section. So I want a section. I want it to be 1, 2, 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, and I click OK. And it puts it in there. Now I don't want it there, so I'm just going to tab that across like so. Maybe might have to come back a little bit, and then after that I want to put in the actual section page number. And again I'm going to Quick Parts, Field, and section page number is not that, and it's not that. It is just a normal page that you would normally put in if you was doing this manually, just wanting it to say 1, 2, 3 or ABC. So I've selected page, and I want it to go ABC because it's already got a 1 there. So if I click OK, it should say 1A. So I do need to come back a little bit on that. So 1A, just take it across a bit. Now if I come out of this, back into the document, when I do a new page, it should go 1B, 1C. So the actual number, the section number, is still a 1. Now, if I want to change this to section 2, if I go to layout, breaks, it's the next page, that has already done it in situ, change this to section 2. I double click on it, it says same as previous. So if I take that off, because I don't want that there to start as a C, so this is a new section, so I need to highlight that, go to format page numbers, select ABC, and then click the bottom there, start at A. So now that says 2A, and if I double click off this, so you've got 1A, 1B, 2A, press Control and Enter, and then that says 2B. And then the process would be the same, following it on, you just keep adding new sections in. So if I do that again for you so you can see it, go back to layout, breaks, next page. It's just, I'll do that again actually, so it goes on to a second page. Yeah, so this section, if I double click on the bottom there, you've got a section there. If I do a Control Enter on that one, I get 3A, 3B, and then that's saying 4A, so it's a different section. Section 4, it's starting at A, so that's okay. I need to break this off so it's not linked to the previous one, and then click off that. And that's how you do it really. You just basically keep creating your sections, but make sure that the number you put in first is not the 1, 2, 3 page number, it's the section number, and then the 1, 2, 3 or ABC goes after that, and then you can get the numbering to be formatted as shown. So I hope that was useful for you, and hopefully I can see you on a new video shortly. Thank you for your time. In this module, I want to look at business letter layout. So on the screen, I've got some block information where you should put your details when you're writing a business letter. So top right, you can see there, you've got your information, your address, and the date. On the left, it's going to be their information. Then sometimes you have a title, depends how your company does it. Sometimes there's a title there, so it should say read something, read job applicant. Then you are going to say dear sir or madam, or dear surname, dear Mr. Jones. Then you have an opening paragraph, main body, and a closing paragraph, and then you sign it off with yours sincerely. So this is basically what I want to have a quick look at. So if I just get myself a new document, and this is going to be introducing a few features in Word. One of the things that's been an issue for me over the years is the way people put their address on the right hand side of the paper. The worst case scenario would be for somebody to start pressing the space bar to get across to the right. If I put show hide on, you can see that that's putting loads of dots there, basically, character spaces. So get rid of that. That is not a good way of doing it. Another way would be to press the tab key and tab yourself across there and then start typing your address. That is acceptable, but it's not great. Now, the other way people do it is they click on write a line and they start typing their address, like Mr. S. Saxton. And I see this so much on the internet, lots of examples of this, and it is so wrong. Because what you've done here, you have got the text on the right hand side of the screen, but you've got it left, not left aligned, you've got it right aligned, so you can see it's coming in there. If I take the show hide off, just make my screen a little bit bigger, it's coming in from the right margin correct, but it's not left aligned. This should be straight down this line there. So the way to do that is not by any of those I've just said, is by using an indent. So here is the indent marker. There's lots of different ways of getting an indent across at the 10. I'm going to go for the 10 centimeters, maybe 11 centimeter mark. If I select the bottom rectangle, it says left indent when I point to it. I can pull that across to 11, I'll just type some random text there so you can see that it will go to the end and then wrap round, but everything is left aligned even though it's on the right hand side of the screen. Nice and neat. And if you insert a word, it just keeps wrapping round and stays over there. If I just delete all that off and put my proper address in there, so take it across to 10. In fact, rather than dragging it, you can also use these two buttons. So that one increases the indent, so 1, 2, 3 all the way across. It jumps at 1.27, so it's not exactly going to 10, and it won't go to 11 if I click it one more. So that is not as accurate as me just putting it on there. But if I went into the paragraph area, you've got the option there of setting an indent at an exact position. But to be fair, if you can get yourself trained up so you can grab the thing, you have to be careful, because if you move too far up, you get the bottom triangle, which splits this off, and then your top triangle, which represents the first line, is not in sync. So you have to be quite careful to get the rectangle and position it where you want it to be. And then you can type your address. So if I just type mine very quickly, no, it's not my name, and I don't live here either. But you see, when I'm pressing enter now, it's just wrapping round, it's just coming down, and it's all nice and neat. Now you could put the date there. Now this is where I might have made a mistake and not done enough space, but if I go to insert date and time, and go for the longest date, so obviously that would work. See if it fits. So it's not fit, it's wrapped round a little bit. So what I need to do now is just basically come over to this side and just highlight everything nice and neatly, pick up the indent marker and take it back to the 10 centimeter mark. So that does wrap round correctly like so. Press and enter. Now I need to clear the indent off to get back over to the left hand side, and to do that I'm going to use a key command, Control and Q, which does that. Or I could have dragged it back across, or I could have clicked on the button going left like so. So now I need to type their address. So Mr. Smith, let's say, 1 Red Road, Leeds. That'll do. Now the title for this is going to be in bold and underlined, so I'm going to do Control B and underline, and I'm going to say and then job application, job. And then I'm doing the key command Control spacebar to knock all that off, pressing enter. Then I'm going Dear Mr. Smith. And then you could put a comma there, some people do, but I'm just going to leave that as it is. And now you are typing your introduction. So I'm just going to put introduction. I've actually got some text on intro. I think I've got some auto text. Let's see if I have. Maybe not. Yes, I have. Nothing to do with this letter, but there's your introduction. And then see if I've got anything on ending. Yep, there's my main body. And then you want an ending, which will be intro again for this example. And the last thing you're going to do is yours sincerely, and they should leave 6 line spaces, so there's space for you to write or sign your signature block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, S. Saxton, like so. So that's a standard business letter that you'd expect to see in quite a lot of companies. The ones that you've got them pre-printed and the left aligned, the right aligned are wrong in my view, but you can't argue with that if they've used them for ages. Now another option you could have is you get some companies where you've got the addresses on the same line. So they're no longer aligned to the right, they are both on the same line. Now obviously this wouldn't work how we've got it set up there, so if I show you how to do that, I've just got myself a new document. So what you have to basically do there is Mr. Smith. So that's the first line of the customer's address, if you like. Now I need to put an indent over, let's go for the 10 centimeter mark again. So there's a left indent. I want a left indent, so I'm just going to put it onto the 10 centimeters, and then I can tab, which will jump to that, and then I can put my name, Mr. S. Saxton, and so on. And when I press enter, it goes back over to Mr. Smith. So I go 1 Red Road, and I just press my tab key again, 1 2 3 Building Lane, and you can see how this works. So you basically are doing these two addresses in tandem. I'll just do this to Bradford, and then you get the idea. Needs a capital. Now it went to capital before because it was the first line. So if I come down one more address, and let's say that's it finished, what I should then do is pull that indent off, so I don't pull that indent all the way through this document, otherwise it would be through the document. Another way I could have done that is I could have gone insert table, just done two lines like so, and hidden the borders, so no border, but you can, on this one as well, no border. Wrong one, no border. So these don't print out. I've just got the on the layout tab you can put guides on, view grid lines, so I've put those on so you can see them, and then you'd basically just put your addresses in these two boxes and they would be on the opposite sides of the paper. So in terms of this, you might need to move that to the right. I just did Control R there, which is, we're going to be back to the same situation we had with the indent. So what you can do with tables is you can actually create an indent inside a table, which is what I would have to do over there. Otherwise I don't achieve what I'm trying to achieve, which is the same as what's above. So I will put an indent on, backspace that off a minute, and just set that indent across at 11. So when I start typing in there, it should just wrap around at 11. Like so. But whatever you're doing, you try to keep this nice and neat like that. So that's just a couple of examples of how you set up letter layouts in Word. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. In this session, we're going to look at creating hyperlinks and bookmarks. So first of all, I have a document on the screen. It's just a few pages, and I just want to recap very quickly how you create table of contents and an index reference. And then I'm going to talk about the benefit of doing hyperlinks, and whether you do it how I've done it down this left hand side is totally up to you. But first of all, references, table of contents, just reminding ourselves that will pick up heading styles on these pages. So there's only 2 pages in this document. And then to create an index entry, if I go back, still on references, you have to mark the entries. So I'll quickly go through a few of these and mark the entries. So once you mark the entries, the show hide feature activates. So if I put a few things in there, mark, and designation, mark, and then training, mark, and I'll put benefits, mark, just a few things. We'll get the point over. If I close that, take the show hide off, stay on references, and then go back down to the bottom. You can see I've got some hyperlinks there which I've already created, but let's just create the index as it would normally be. If I click or type index and then insert the index, and as I always do is I personally like the formal layout, so I'll click formal and it drops those things in like so, which is great. The downside is, unlike the top part of this, the table of contents, you have hyperlinks already preset there, and you can click on these with your control key down and it will take you to that particular area like that. You've also got the option of going view, navigation pane, and you can tick or click any of these headings and it will quickly jump to that area, which is great. But that doesn't apply for the index. So when you're in the index area, if you were looking at an index in a book or a manual, when you hover over these numbers, there's nothing there. You can't click. It's telling you what page it's on, which you would then manually have to go to that page, which is okay if it's a hard copy document. But if this is an online document, you would want people to be able to click onto relevant elements of the document quickly. And to do that, you need to use hyperlinks, which is what these are. So I've got the same things there. If I click, hold my control key down and click on fortune, it takes me to this bit. If I go back down to the index and then click on designation, it should take me to designation. It's on this bit there. It's not actually going to the word itself, it's going to that section, just showing you that section. And if I click back down on an index again, office or training, I'll do training. It should take me to the training bit there, training. And I've got a link back down to the bottom. So basically I've created hyperlinks to where I want to go to, which is about these elements. And then in the margin, I've created a hyperlink back down so I can get back down to this index, which makes it a two-way link. Now there are other ways of doing this, but this is what I want to do for this. So let's say corporations is a part you want to get to. So what I did is I clicked on the line above corporations, and then I took the first line index into the margin, and then I typed index. Then click back onto corporations. So on corporations, if I just highlight corporations, in fact I don't need to highlight, I just need to be there. So I'll go insert, bookmark, call it corporations, add, so that's a bookmark. And then on the index one, if I just highlight that, I want to create a link to the index, which is the bottom part of the screen, which is just down here. That's the index. And then down here, I create a link to corporations, a hyperlink to corporations, link. Corporations becomes a part of the bookmark list, corporations, okay. And then I should be able to click hyperlink to corporations and it takes me there. And then I can click back down to the bottom to the index. So you're creating a method to get to a particular part of the document and a method to get back down to the document. Now I've used the word index, but you could call that return to previous page, or whatever you want to call it. But basically you're creating a bookmark and then hyperlinking to that bookmark. So that's the end of this little session. I hope it was enjoyable and I hope you follow me on YouTube, and I will catch you later. This is consolidation exercise 2. So using a blank document, you need to create this table, and then you need to use formulas to work out the total of the sales, of the cost, and then a profit. So you're working out the profit. So that will be sales minus cost. And remember, column A, column B, column C, column D, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then after that, you create in these tables below. This is just straightforward tables. You can create these. This is being sorted, or it's asking you to sort it. Sort the list by name order. Now you need to do that before you add this bottom bit on, otherwise this will become part of the sort, unless you just basically highlight this bit, including the names actually. You might get away with it there, but do the sort first so it's in name order, and then add the rest of it. Then under that, you're doing this table where you're drawing that, use the drawing tool. So you've got this little different line style there, shaded areas, centered, shaded, centered, and so on. Text is aligned this way. And then the last bit, you're doing this little table and you're putting a tab at 2 centimeters in each of these cells. That's all that's telling you to do. And then once you've done that, you can move on to the next section. So in this module, we're going to look at how to do a mail merge using, first of all, the word table, which is actually an access table, and then some preset data that I have in an access database. So first off, to start the whole process, you need to be on the mailings tab, and you need to ignore these first two buttons because these are not really to do with mail merge. The first option is start mail merge. You have letters, email, envelopes, etc. So this first one we're going to start off with letter. Then you have to select recipients. You've got an option there to type a new list, use an existing list, or choose Outlook contacts. So first off, I'll show you how to type a new list. Click there. So you need to give some data. So I'll just put my name in there. It's easy. Address 1 Red Road. You don't have to put everything in there. Let's say we come from Leeds. Now you see it says state there, but I live in the UK, so you need to customize columns. Click on state and rename that to county. And also we've got zip code, rename that to postcode, because that's what we use in the UK. Click OK, and carry on. County East West Yorkshire. Postcode for this one LE122RT. And then when you want to do a new entry, you click new entry, and then you do another one. I'll just do 2 so you get the idea. Put my wife down there. Let's pretend she's not in that company and she lives at 2 Red Road, which is obviously slightly odd, but just for demonstration purposes. And that's in Bradford. That's also in West Yorkshire. And then once you've typed this list out, you can add to this list and keep going and going. But for now, we'll just click OK to that. And then it asks you to save it. Call it my data. That'll just overwrite that one. Previous one. Overwrite that. Then if you click on edit recipient list, you can see those 2 records, and you can see that made my data. So if you needed to add extra records, you would just click on edit and then start typing extra records. But for now, that'll do. So coming along, address block, greeting lines, insert merge field. So that's a list of all the columns that was in that table. But rather than bringing these in individually, which you can do, you have got some preset formats through address block and greetings line, which is what I want to use first off. So these are just different layout styles. You can see it changes slightly there. I'm going to leave it on the bottom one. Click OK, and it puts some code in there, which is not very helpful. However, if you move forward a little bit and click on preview results, you get the idea there. It shows you the address. And if I click on forward, you see the other address, then backward, like so. Now, greeting line, dear Mr. Saxton, click OK. And then you could type your letter, how did you like, and then I'm going to add a single field, the city field, in that space, when you arrived, and whatever else you want to type, like that. So the way mail merge works is you need to have a document that you want to merge with multiple addresses, in this case just 2 addresses, but there could be thousands there. You can do it via email, as I showed you earlier on, but this one would be a letter that you would be printing out. So the final step would be to finish the merge and select one of these options. If you click print documents, it will send a letter to the printer, but it will do one letter, print, stop, another letter, print, stop, and so on and so on, which is quite slow. Modern printers, that wouldn't be too much of a hassle, but what I tend to do is click on individual documents. This gives you an option to filter, but I'm going to click OK. And then if I minimize, you'll see I have one letter per record in the mail merge. This is a detached copy. It's not attached to the first letter, so I could just delete this. In fact, I will do that. I won't save it. I'll go back to this one. This is the one I would save, which I haven't done at the moment, but I would save this, and as it was added to, I would have extra records available at the top there, and then I would just do the merge again, edit individual documents, and then the process repeats. So that's how you do a simple mail merge. So let's close this one down, and now let's do that again with an envelope. So still on the mailings tab, select an envelope, and when you select an envelope, it gives you the options to select the type of envelope you want. I'm just going to leave it on this default set. click OK, and now in the middle there, magically there is a table, or text box should I say, which you can move, and then you would need to put your address block in there. But first of all, let's get the recipient. So this time I want to use this option, existing list. Now I've got a database on here that we can use in examples, access and company records. These are the tables that I have in that database, and this is the one I want, address details. So now when I go edit recipients list, I see a lot more records there from that access table. Click OK, but the process is still the same. Address block, same layout, OK. Have a look at it, and that's it. I don't need a greetings line because this is an envelope. I can go through these, and I can then do the same process, edit individual documents, OK, and this time I will have a envelope per person, like so. So let's close that one down again. Let's not save that. And let's close this one down and not save that one. Get yourself another one. Now the next one I want to do is labels. So same thing, start mail merge, labels. Again, it picks the labels that it thinks you want. So what I want is not that one. Let's go for Avery, and now there's absolutely hundreds of different options here. So what is that one? So let's have a look at the details. So that is one across, no good. So I want probably 3 across. No, all these numbers have changed slightly as there's different versions of Word. So I'm looking for a L7 something. Let's try L701. So I've got that one. 3 across, 6 down. Let's just cancel that one. Details. No, I'll go for that one. Details. No, not enough. So that one. Details. Let's see what this looks like. This is probably not the right one, but you'll get the idea. Click OK. Same thing. Select your data. Use existing list. Find your data source. In examples, access 2018, company records, address details. Place the address block in the first box. Click OK. And preview. Now the difference here is you have to click this button, update labels, and then it puts everybody's in there, and you can see how that works. You don't have to do the final step, that is actually the list. So that's how you do labels. Next one, get rid of that one, don't save. Now on the mailings tab you have these two, which I said at the beginning are not part of the mail merge feature. So envelopes, if I click on envelopes, it'll show you the envelope, but let's just cancel that. Let's get some data on here. Have I got anything? No. So if I do move the indent across to 10 and then just type my address, Mr. S. Saxton, 123 Belden Lane, Whipsey, Bradford. I don't live there, by the way. And this is how this works. So if I highlight that, so there's my address, or it could be an address that you're sending the letter to. If I then click on envelopes, I've got this option at the bottom which says add to document, and then it creates a little envelope for you. And again, you've just got a little text box there which you can move about if you need to. So that's really what that's used for. It's not part of mail merge. Let's get rid of that one. Don't save. And then the other one, which is also not part of mail merge, is a label, which is basically going to be labels for yourself. In fact, I should have kept my address there actually, so let's just do that again. So Mr. S. Saxton, 123 Belden Lane, Whipsey, Bradford. So same thing, highlight my address, lazy man's way of doing it, click on labels, There it is. So you're creating a label based on a new document. That's what I'm going to do. Now I could select a different label, but let's just see what this one row. Okay, I'm going to leave it on that, see what it looks like. Yeah, so it's the same address all the way down. So that's if you're moving house or you're giving your friends a card with your new address on it, you can use that feature there. So it's not mail merge, but it gives you something that looks quite similar to that. Okay, so that is a very basic overview of and a quick overview of mail merge. And in a later session, I will show you a few more advanced features in mail merge. But that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for your time. In this next section, we are going to look at advanced mail merge techniques. First of all, I'm going to create a mail merge document. So onto the mailings tab and select recipients. This is the option I want to use existing list. Find my list, which is an Access database table called company records. And within there, the table that I require is this one, address details. Check that you've got that, so you can see the list there. Now what you can do at this stage is you can sort this list by clicking on the sort option and selecting a sort feature. For example, you might want to sort by city, and then by surname, and then by postcode. Okay. You might want to filter this list so that only certain records are used in the mail merge. So if I select city equal to Leeds, you'll see that only the records from Leeds will be selected. If I go back into filter and remove that, put it back to no filter, click OK. You can also do that sort of thing from each of these little drop down arrows in this table. So if I go to city there, and let's say I just want Bradford, there I just click on it like that, and then go back to all. If I want Leeds, I click on Leeds, just filters Leeds, go back and take it all off. Now if I need to add a record to this table, I need to click on the database, which is this one, and then edit. And then you've got this new entry at the bottom where you can type in a new person. So if I type in a new person, Mrs. Alana Saxton, 1 Red Road, Leeds, LE1 1RT, say for example. Now you don't need to, I just noticed there's a mistake there, so I'm putting an S on that one. I don't need to fill all of this in for this demonstration, but you'll see what happens. Normally you would fill everything in. If I click OK, it asks me, do I want to update my list? Yes, I do. And then I can click OK to this. Now if I go back and have a look at the Access database company records, if I open that and then open the table address details, you can see that the record that I just typed in Word has actually appeared in the table in Access, which is great, except I don't want that, so I'm going to delete it, save that, close Access down and get back to my Word document and continue with the mail merge. So normally on the previous sessions I've shown you the address block and the greeting line, but for this example I'm not going to use those. I'm going to individually insert the fields, so I can then utilize some of the rules that you have with mail merge. So I'll just do, I won't do all of these fields, so I'll do address, city and postcode, and then you can see how these work. So again, if I click on preview results, you'll see that. Now, dear, I want this to say either sir or madam, depending on whether this is a female or not. So rules, first one is if then else, click that one. So it's the title field is equal to Mr. I want this text to appear. Otherwise, if it's not Mr., I want Madam to appear. I'll click OK to that. So it's a female, so it's saying Dear Madam. If I go forward, it should then say Sir, and it flicks between the two depending on what the field is. So that's the first one. Now let's say that you want to skip records on this particular mail merge if the city field is equal to Leeds. Now we could have done a filter at this stage, but just to show you one of these other fields, we've got skip record if, that one. So if I click on that, if city field is equal to Leeds, now you can't see that there, but if I highlight these and do Alt F9, or sometimes you might need the function key and Alt F9, whichever your keyboard is set to, it will flick this over and show you the code. So you can see the skip if code there equals Leeds. And I'll just put these back. So Alt F9 again shows it back. So when I go merge, finish and merge all the records, and then I scroll down these records. So if it sees Leeds, it should have skipped it and gone on to the next one, whatever that one is. So there's Bradford, there's Derby, and then there's Halifax and Manchester. There is no Leeds, Newcastle and Sunderland. So you can see this actually skipped that record altogether. So the filter, if I just close this one down, don't save that, because this is the one you would save. You could keep running that. So this is miss Leeds out, whereas if you do the filter through this box, it's only showing you that particular city, so it would only show you Leeds. Okay, you've got different options. If I go into advanced, you've got like I showed you initially, you could city not equal to Leeds would do exactly the same thing. Let's come out of that. So these fields sort of duplicate what's going on elsewhere. It's total your own personal preference which you like to use. Now the other thing I want to show you is this fill in box. So let's pretend we've done a letter, and at the bottom we want to add in our signature block. Now sometimes it might be a document signed by the MD, others it might be PP by somebody else or signed by somebody else. So if we go fill in prompt, so in there we could say enter appointment, for example, and the default appointment would be account manager, for example. And then if you don't tick this box, every time for every letter that you have in the mail merge, it will ask you this information and you will have to type it in every time, which is not great. So I'm going to tick that, click OK, asks me the first time, click OK, that's great. Now when I go for the merge, it will ask me once, so I'll click OK, and now I'm going to put in account manager S. Saxton, and then OK to that, and then every letter, as you can see there, if I come down and zoom in, says that on it, account manager S. Saxton. So that's using the fill-in box. Now if I close this again, Control W to close, don't save it, back to this document. The last thing I want to do is, if I just delete this off, is just show you how to create a directory using this database list. So basically it's just going to produce a directory of all the records in this format, the way I've got it laid out there. So if I click on directory, and then it just shows you a complete list of everybody in the database, but laid out how you've placed the fields, like so. And that is the end of this session, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. In this session, we're going to look at mail merge. Now in a normal mail merge, when you get to the last step, finish and merge, it creates a page per record. But in this example, what I would like to do is create a document per record. So the process to do the mail merge is exactly the same. Start on the left, select the type of mail merge document you require, select the list that you want to merge. I've already done that. Edit the list if you require to edit the list, and then you have these options to bring in the fields. So for this example, I need to do this manually, so I'm going to bring each field in one at a time. Now the reason you can see the data is because this is activated. I'll just put it back on off. Next one, address, press enter. Next one, city, and then the last one for this example will be the postcode. So there's your records. Now the last step is edit individual documents. But before I do that, for this to work, I need to make this top line into a heading style, and the style that I am going to choose is heading style 2, which is this font and this size. No space before, no space after. Back to mailings, complete the merge. All records, okay, and then you get a page per record, but I want a file per record. So what I need to do now is click on the View tab, select Outline, and then you get each record split by a section break. Then I'm highlighting all these records, and I'm going to use this part of the ribbon where it says Master Document, Show Document, and then Create. Now when I create that, Word puts each of these records into a document by itself. So this feature we're using now is a master document feature. And if I save this as test, this master document is called test, but each record within this document will be a document on its own. So if I click on save and then go into documents, you can see there's test, which is the master document, and then each of these records are sitting as an individual document. If I open that one, you can see it there. And that is how you create a mail merge into separate documents as opposed to all one document. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for your time. This is consolidation exercise 3, which is mail merge. You need to create this mail merge document, so you'll have to create this table or recreate this table, and these are the mail merge fields that you need to add. And then down the bottom there it's telling you what data source to use, so you're not needing to create a data source. There is already one there, that's a Word file that you can use. So just connect up to that, insert the fields, and then do the mail merge. And then once you've done the mail merge, if you zoom down to 10%, you should see a letter, one of these per person in your database. And that's the end of these instructions. I'll see you on the next one, or move on to the next one. What I want to have a look at in this module is how to use the table of contents feature that you get with Microsoft Word. So what I've got here is a document, 6 or 7 pages, 6 pages long, with heading styles. These are heading styles, which is the main part of table of contents. Without heading styles, you cannot use the table of contents feature. Also with heading styles, if I click on the View tab and activate the navigation pane, you get this sort of feature. So it lists the heading styles for this document down this left hand side, and I can navigate through the document by clicking on these. And better still, I can actually move. If I move that heading up to below benefits, it actually moves that whole chunk of text associated with that heading. I'll just do undo to put it back as well. So it's better than doing copy and paste. So if you've bothered yourself to do heading styles or use heading styles, you get some great features like that. Now, once you've got heading styles in your document, and I'll do a blank document with some heading styles, so I'll show you how to do it from scratch, but let's see how the table of contents works. So on the references tab, you have table of contents. So I'm going to get myself above introduction. So if I press enter, what I've done there is I've actually brought down the heading style. If I go back to home for a second, still saying heading 1. I want that to be normal. You've got to be careful when you're pressing enter on heading styles, because you will be bringing the style down on these blank lines if you're not careful, and then anything you insert in there will be picked up in the table of contents, and sometimes that might not be what you want. So I've put it back to normal, like so. And then on references, you've got table of contents, preset styles. I'm going to pick the top one, and it just drops in like that. Now what you've got here, these are hyperlinks. If you hold your control key down, you can click on it and it'll take you to that relevant part. However, I've just showed you that this is a far superior beast, really. It's just a legacy from the older versions that you can do that, but it's not. There's nothing bad about that. It's just a feature you can use. Now obviously this is picking up wherever there's a heading style of whatever type. So the top one is heading 1 and these two are heading 2s. I haven't got any heading 3s, but you could use multiple headings. They would all be indented in if you did. If I add extra pages, so if I go down here and do a hard page break, just doing Control Enter a couple of times just to get myself 2 extra page breaks, and I'll get myself back to the top. Obviously now the page numbers are not correct. So the beauty of this is when you click into the heading style, you have this option. If you don't have this option, you're probably in an older version of Word, but you still will have it on the ribbon. Should have it there. You can also press F9, function key F9 to do this, but I'm just going to click that. It's asking me to update page numbers only, which is the one I need. If I'd added a title, another title in those 2 blank pages, I would have to select that option. But for now, I'll just click OK, and the page numbers changed over. So you've got page 3 there now. That was on page 2 before. So that's as simple as that. That's how you update a table of contents. Now if I get myself a blank piece of paper, blank document, this is how you do it. So if I want to do a heading, a new heading, you've got your heading styles here. I tend to use heading 2, but all of these styles are preset by Microsoft. So if I click on heading 1 and then just type introduction, you can see whatever style that is. So that is it's got blue font on it, and if you highlight it, you can see, I'll move that out of the way for a second, it's got space before set. Now you can modify all of these styles for this document or any document if you want. So if I go into modify, I don't want it blue for a start, so let's put that back to black, and I do want it bold, so I'll have it bold. You get a little preview there, and I don't want that for font, and I don't want that size either, so I'm changing this down. And the key thing is I do not like that, so I'm going to take that off. So into paragraph, and 12 points before, just put that back to 0, and then you've got everything there set how you want it. You click OK, and then you can automatically update this document or set that so that every new document has this edited style. I'll just leave that, both of those off for a moment. Click OK, and then you get that style there. So when I press enter after that style, it goes back to normal look. So it's gone back to normal. So I'll just type some text in there. I've got some text in auto text. Now let's do a heading style 2. So heading style 2, that one. I'll just have a quick look at this, see what this is. So heading 2, it's, yeah, okay, that's okay. And then just check whether there's any spacing before paragraph. No, so that's all right. I'll use that all the time, so that's why it's set to that. That has already been edited. So then I can just go part 1. There's a heading style, and then I'll just do a bit more text, auto text, and then I want heading style 2 again, and then part 2, and then your text, and so on. Now if you want to create your own style, which I've got there, if I create a new one, if I go into this, if you want it to be picked up in the table of contents, you have to get it based on a heading style. So this is a new style, so I'll call this Sax, and its style type is a paragraph, and I'll base it on heading 2, and the following paragraph should be normal, otherwise it will stay on heading 2. And I'll change the color to something weird and wonderful, like that. Not that, that's a bit grim. Let's go for green. Okay, that's still grim, but never mind. So it's based on heading 2, and we know heading 2 hasn't got any issues with spaces before or after, so that's okay. Click OK, click OK, and then you've got it selected. That little triangle, it means it's selected. So if I go part 3, enter, and then type my little auto text again, it should go back to a normal paragraph, which it does. So that's how you can edit your own, but don't go mad. I've seen documents with 50 or 60 styles up here. It causes real confusion with when people are trying to edit things and there's different styles in different paragraphs. I would always suggest that you edit the preset styles to fit your need or suit your need. But now let's have a look at this. If I go back up to the top, get myself a little space, come down, put that back to normal, and then let's put my table of contents in there. Pick the default one, and then it drops it in there like that. And even though it's not picked up the color, it has picked up the style because it's based on heading style 2, and they're all indented in, as you can see. So if you don't base it on a heading style, it doesn't pick it up. So if I try and show you that, if I do another one, so if I just do a new style, call it Saxo, leave it on normal, and the paragraph will be normal, but I'll change the size and everything so it stands out. Okay, let's come back to normal, can do my little paragraph and close this down. Scroll back up, click on the table, update table, entire table, hasn't picked it up. So you do have to set your new styles, your new styles, like that one. You need to base it on one of the heading styles that's already preset, otherwise, like this, it looks great in the document. Well, it doesn't look great actually, but it's in the document, but you can't actually pick it up on the table of contents, which slightly makes it pointless. It's also not being picked up on this left hand side either in the navigation pane. So heading styles are a superb tool. You can send things into PowerPoint and it will create presentations for you based on heading styles. Any heading style one will be a slide, and then these will be bullets on a slide. That's just a send to PowerPoint option, which I've got up there, I think. Yeah, that one. You just need to add that button and off it goes. Just create a slide and you're ready to go with the outline of a document in a PowerPoint presentation. But that's all I want to talk about on table of contents for this little session. So hopefully that was okay, and I'll see you on the next one. In this module, I want to have a quick look at how to create an index reference in a Word document. And to do that, you need to be on the References tab, and you need to be in this section here where it says Index. Now what you have to do is you need to mark the index entries that you want to appear at the bottom of your document or the back of your book, whichever. So when you click on Mark Entry, this little box pops up, and for some reason it's shot to the bottom of the screen, but I'll come back to the top. Now I'm just going to pick random words and phrases for this to work to show you. So if I just double click on %, all I need to do is click on Mark, and now that looks like it's grayed out, so you can't click on it, but it's because this box is floating, and as you can see I've just clicked on the box and now it's not grayed out. So it's put % in there, and I will mark it. Now as soon as you click on Mark, the Show Hide comes on, so you can see the codes. So you don't want to be highlighting any codes that might already be there. And you can see in this document there's quite a few that are already there. So I'll try not to highlight any of those. So if I just double click on a few random words and come down, click on Mark and Specialist, you can mark all if you want. And then you can highlight a phrase. So I'll highlight a phrase, this Fortune 500 companies, mark. And then as I come down the document, come down a few pages, I'll mark Office. But this is what I'm going to do on the Office one. Underneath there, I'm going to put a sub-entry, which is going to say not 2007. So I need to mark that again. So not 2007 will appear in the index. Candidates, I'll go mark, and then customer, mark. So I'm just picking random words, and what you would have to spend quite a bit of time working out what you think people would look up in the back of a manual to look for the page numbers. Now, this is becoming really irritating. This is one of the things that annoys me with Word sometimes. Mark when things get in the way. Some of the formatting options come up as well on the left-hand margin. Format, mark, credentials, mark. And then I'm now at the bottom of the document, so I can close this. I've marked quite a few entries there, and there was already a few entries marked. So I'll just give it a title. I'm probably going to drop this onto a second page. And now what you do is you insert the index. When you do that, you've got some options from templates. And I quite often, if you click on, some people like that. You got fancy, modern, and that's terrible. And then the one I always go for is formal. Don't know why I like that. I've always gone for that one. But anyhow, that's what I'm going for. But it's up to you. Click OK. It has dropped onto another page. So I'm just going to click next to that and do Control Enter to put a page break in there for you. So it's now at the top of the next page. And if I just go and take Show Hide off, so it gets rid of that. So there's your index. And the good news is these page references, you can see there, first off, before I talk about the page references, not in 2007. That was the sub entry that I added. But these page references will be automatically updated in the same way a table of contents is. If I, for example, go to the top of this document a bit and just add a few page breaks there, so all the page numbers will be out of sync. So I'm doing Control Enter, Control Enter, Control Enter, Control Enter. So I've added 3 or 4 pages there. And then I'm going to get myself to the end of the document. I did Control End there to get back down. So this table's now not correct. So if I highlight this table, I can update this table with the F9 function key, or on the References tab, you've now got this. You didn't have that before. And I will update the table. So we had the program should move. Let's see if it does. Update the table. Yes, it did. It's moved to page 5, which is correct. So I added 4 pages. And that's all you have to do. So in theory, if you had a table of contents at the top and an index at the bottom, I personally would highlight the whole document, Control A, and then use the key command F9, which updates all fields. Because you can see on all these different things, you've got update this table, update that table, and then update the table of contents table. So you could click 3 buttons. Whereas if you just do F9, it updates all fields. All fields F9 gets updated. Anyhow, that's the index reference, and thank you for your time. I'll see you on the next bit. In this module, I want to look at references and some of the features that you have on this part of the ribbon. Do Smart Lookup Researcher. So first of all, the Smart Lookup feature. So if I type, for example, the word Spartan, and then highlight that word and click on Smart Lookup, what this feature does, if you're on the internet, it will give you some information about Spartan helmets and stuff like that there. It will also tell you what it means and give you different meanings. So this is the Spartans as in Greece, Sparta in Greece. This is the word Spartan as in Spartan, harsh, hard, frugal, that sort of thing. So that's Smart Lookup. The one next to it is called Researcher. If I click on that, it gives you this little feature. If I type Spartan in there, it's going to come up, in this case, it's coming up with Sparta in Greece. It gives you similar sort of information and links to different websites that are relevant to Spartan. So both these features obviously are dependent on internet connections. What we have next is insert captions. That's what we're going to look at now. When you insert caption, you've got things like figure 1, table 1 and stuff like that. If I drop this list down, you've got table, and you can add your own. So if I was just add my own, I'll just call it Sax. Okay, so that now becomes available in that list. The auto caption feature, if I click on that, will give you, if I tick any of these, every time you do one of these features, it will put the caption on for you. So if I select word table, I find word table there, if I tick that, and then it's going to put the caption above, I'll click OK to that. Nothing's happened yet, but if I go and insert a table quickly, it puts table 1 above that for me. If I insert another table, it'll put table 2, and so on and so on. Now, if I insert a picture, I can do a caption for that. So insert picture, this device. Let's go to family tree and pick one of my pictures. Better pick myself. So there's a picture. So if I now go back to references, I can select caption. It's picking up table 3, but I don't want that. I want it to say Sax 1. And then it's selected below. Change that to above. Okay. And then if I do another picture, I'll do another picture. Don't know what that is. That one will do. It's quite a big picture, that. Same thing applies. You can then add the captions above or below. Just make it a lot smaller than that. Just take it right down. So it's on the same page, and then go back to references, insert caption, Sax to it automatically, picks up that. Okay. And then what you can do at the bottom there is, if I come onto this next page, you can insert a table of figures. So if I click on that, so it's got this one. So yeah, I'll click OK to that. And then if I do it again, insert table of figures, change that to figure. Okay. Hasn't found a figure. I didn't do any figures. I just did table. So I'll just get rid of that one. So if I pick that, insert that, and select table, it should pick up the table. So we've got 2 tables there. So that's how that caption works, and how you can create your own bits and bobs and your own little tables of information at the end of a document, so people can then quickly hyperlink back to them from these numbers. Hold your control key down, it will take you back to that page. This is consolidation exercise 4. You need to recreate this document. So what you've got at the top is a table of contents, and at the bottom an index table or reference. So these, you need to type this text out, or this actually is in a file called talk. If you open that, you'll be able to copy this text out. It's basically the first line of these paragraphs. And then you need to make sure that the titles are heading styles, and you also need to make sure that you highlight the words to reference them in the index. And then you insert the table of contents at the top and the index at the bottom. And then the last thing you have to do is create a new style and name it your name, style of your choice. And that's the end of that exercise. In this module, I want to have a look at track changes. On the screen, I have a document with track changes activated, and you can see lots of changes selected and highlighted. So to do it, you select the Review tab and you click on Track Changes. And then what you see depends on what settings you've got. So in this one, I've got everything ticked, so you can see almost everything. But I'll just quickly go through the different options so you can see it. At the top there, you've got All Markup. First one says Simple Markup, so it's just showing a few things. And then All Markup, so it's showing all changes to this document. Shows comments as well at the bottom. You can see 2 comments. Then you've got underneath that no markup at all. However, this is quite a dangerous one, because if you do email this document and somebody decides to click on all markup, they will see all your changes. So that is not the final solution. You still have to follow the process through to make sure everything is either accepted or rejected from these two buttons, which I'll go through in a second. So that's just to hide things. And there's the original option, which just shows you the original document. So I'm going to put that back on all markup so you can see everything. And then underneath that you've got show markup. And I've got all these ticks. I'll just take them off one at a time so you can see what happens. So now everything seems to have disappeared because I've taken some of these options on. So I'll put them back on so you get the idea how you can have things displayed. So sometimes there's a bit too much information down this right hand side and it's a bit off-putting for people. So you do want to take some of these off. Now how it's displayed, I've got this show revisions in balloons. If I tick the next one, this is what people will be familiar of in older versions of Word. This is how it used to be before things popped up on the right hand side there. See, things are underlined or red and strike through. If I just delete something, you can see how it works. So I've deleted that. I pressed delete, but it didn't actually delete it. It just changed it to red and put a line through it. Now if I insert some text there, if I just put my name, you can see what it's doing. It's just underlining it but not deleting the original. That's how it's doing the track changes. And if I delete some things, press delete, it just did the underline again. And if I change a format, so I'll make that bold, and you can see it's gone bold. If I just do that bold and italic and underline, now you can see it's actually changed there, but it's not flagging it up anyway. But if I go back up to the top and select a different option, so go back to balloons and show revisions in balloons, you do get all those formatting things that I just did showing up. Formatted, and whatever you do, you get it there. Delete that one. So I'm making a mess of this document. You can see it's coming down there, but it is quite difficult to see. So I think the way to use this is to put things on and off and make sure you're okay with it. If I take this bottom option, now you've got everything in line, but you're seeing comments and formatting options in the pane down the right hand side. I'll put that back to the top one so it shows everything. And then the other option in there was specific people. You can take individuals off. So I've edited this document twice in two different logins, so that's why my name's down twice, but normally there would be other people there, and you can tick people on and off however you want. So I'll put those back on. Now in this box here, tracking, you've got a little arrow. If I click on that, it comes into tracking options. So this is basically just reflecting the ticks that you've selected on these options at the top. But you've got some other features in here. So advanced options, if you go in there, this is what is dictating the colors and the style of the changes. You can change these if you want to. You can change the user as well if you want to. Not in this box, but in the other box that I just showed you. But this is all about setting the color schemes if you don't want to leave it as the default. If I click OK to that, change username is that one. But basically that's the login user. So when everybody logs in, whatever their login is, they will appear down this right hand side. So you don't really need to change that unless you are not the right person. If I go back up to the top, you've got reviewing pane. You can put it across the bottom or down the side. It's whichever one you want, whichever's easiest for you to see. And if you're working on a laptop, that is quite hard to see, so most people tend not to have that showing. Now once you've done track changes, you then have to either accept the change or reject the change. So the idea would be, I've made all these changes and I'll send it back to my boss, and then they get this and they're looking at what I've said or done, and then they're going through it and they're basically saying accept, 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 reject, reject, accept, accept, reject, all the way through till you get to the end of the document. So I'm going to accept all changes. Now it doesn't do anything to the comments because these are not part of track changes really. These are just comments. that you have to either resolve or reply to. So there's a reply. If I resolve that, it grays it out, but it's still there. Same with this one. If I resolve that, it grays it out. And what you have to do here is physically delete the comments. Now, I'll just leave those for a minute. Once you've gone through the whole document and accepted all changes, that is when the document is a completed document. Not, as I said before, if you just change the markup to no markup, that is a dangerous thing. This is what you have to do. Complete it, either accepting it or rejecting it, and then the track changes will not show when you forward this on or save this and send it to a colleague. Now I've got a document open which I will put track changes on. So this is a blank document, no track changes. So I'm on the review tab, track changes on, and then whatever I do now is going to be shown up. So if I just do a few formatting things, there the formatting option comes up like so, underline, and then I delete a big chunk of text, another big chunk of text. So it's coming up on this left hand side, on this right hand side saying it's been deleted. If you don't like the fact it does that, you have to change this. You have to go into whether you want the balloons like that or inline. Then it does it like this, which I personally prefer. And then at the end of it all, you send this to your colleague, and then they are going to do accept and reject and then complete the process. But never ever should you email this to a client with these track changes on unless you actually wanting them to make a change and it's something you've agreed to do. If I just go back to the other one, review. Now to insert comments, you just click where you want the comment to be. So, and then you've got comment there, and it's picking me up, and I just got that. And then you type what you want to say, and then people reply to that comment, and then you can resolve it or not. And then if you want to delete a comment, you click in on delete, and you click on that one, click on delete. But this is not part of track changes, so don't mix these two up, because you could use the comments and the reply to instead of track changes. So I could basically say, right, I'm going to send this to my colleague, that's what I think about this. And then I could say, okay, comment, that's what I think about that. And then one more, insert comment, that's what I want you to do about that. And then this guy, whoever gets this via email, will say, he'll either reply, obviously it won't be my name, or he'll just call me up and we'll discuss it over the phone. But whichever way, you have to resolve this. Now, if you want to resolve that and just keep it like that, it's fine, because then you can see what the passage of information between two people is. You don't have to delete these. So I'll just resolve them all. And then if I take this off, I don't see those, but I can see them in the document. So once this is finalized, so if this is a contract document and it's finalized, somebody's going to have to go through, once you both agreed everything, and delete the comments. It's possible that you want to save a version of this, so it's got the comments in so you can see what's been said, but the final version, like when you're doing track changes, needs the comments off. So that's track changes and a quick little overview of comments. Hope that was useful for you, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your time. In this module, I want to look at three things. 1, how to compare two documents. 2, how to combine two documents. And 3, how to combine text from several documents into one file. So first of all, the compare feature. Now, I've clicked onto the review tab, and then over on the right here, you've got compare and combine. So I'll do compare first. So this is basically comparing two versions of the same document. And you basically need to find the two versions. So I've got test is the original, and then test 1 is the revised document. So that's the two that I want to combine, and then I click OK. And then it shows me this screen, which is OK, and it's got highlighted the differences. But to be fair, that's not the best look, I don't think, when you're using this feature. So if you click on this down arrow again and go into this option, you can see what it's on there, but you can also click this, so original or revised or both. And when you click on both, the screen splits down like this. So you have the original document, you have the revised document, you have the compared document in the middle, and then you have the changes and the revisions on the left hand side. So obviously there's a change between the two here, and it's highlighted at the bottom there. This was not on the original, now it is on the revised document. Now I can, if I want, just accept that, and then it tells me there's no track changes left, and then that's taken the revision out of there, and that's now accepted that. So that's one way that you can use to compare documents. Now if I just close this down, I'm not saving that. Now to combine documents is a similar feature. So if I go back to there, that was compare, combine, click on combine. Again, I'm going to pick up the same two documents, test and test 1, and then click OK. Now this is the combined document. Looks exactly the same, but it's when I click accept this, it is going to create a separate document which you can then save and call it whatever you want. So then take this off, don't need to see these anymore, hide source documents, and then this is the document you can do a save as on whatever you want to, but that's how you combine the documents. So basically you're comparing two revisions to see what the changes are, if any, and accepting or rejecting, or not even doing any of that. You maybe just want to call back to your client if it's a client that sent that in and said there's this change that's been made, I need you to have a look at that, and then use comments and refer back and forward until you're happy with the changes, and then accept them. Combining two documents, you may have had a document that at university maybe that a tutor's marked, and you want to combine the comments into your document to move forward and then to edit it as you're going forward. So the other way, the third way, is if I just close this one down, I'm not going to save that, is that you can use the insert object feature. So I've got insert, and then over on the right there you've got object, and I want to bring just the text in. So this doesn't work too well if you've got image. It says text from file, and that's what it does, what it says on the tin. So text, and then I'm going to bring these 3 files in. So I'm just going to hold my shift key down, click on those 3 files, and then click insert, and it just brings this the text in for those 3 files. So that was file 1, file 2, and file 3. So that brings it in nice and neat, and that's how you can bring text from 3 different documents into one document. Very quick, very easy. The other one was combining, and the other one was comparing. So all 3 features are available. There is another feature that you could use to bring multiple documents together, and that is using the master document feature. But for now, that's all I want to talk about for today. So thank you for your time. In this module, I want to have a look at the translate feature in Word. So on the screen, I have a document with some text in English, Spanish, German, and French. Now the translate feature is on the review tab, and it is only in certain versions of Word. This is the Office 365 version. You drop the little down arrow there, you can see translate selection. If I click on that, it opens a pane. I haven't got any text selected, so nothing shows until I highlight something. So there's the English text, and as I move my mouse through this English text, at the moment it's selected to Dutch, but if I change that to a different language from this drop down arrow, so if I come down to, let's go for French, you can see as you move your cursor across different words, it highlights the same word underneath. Now if I scroll down this list, you can click on a word. So if I click on a word, on say this word, that then removes the paragraph, shows you that word in English, and then again it shows you the word in French. And underneath there you've got a down arrow which gives you some more options to look at. So there you've got the option there, and what it is in French, hopeless, what that is in French, and the further information further down. So when you click on different words, the same information appears. You've also got this insert feature, which is what I'm going to use now. So if I highlight this paragraph again, that's the whole paragraph. And what I can do is make a space and then click insert, and that paragraph in French will appear below the English paragraph. Now, in Word, you have a feature called Read Aloud, which has been around for quite a while. In the past, you had to add it up to the top on your quick access toolbar, which I've got already. But now you've got it on this tab. If I click on that, this is reading it out. You can't hear it because I've got my speaker unplugged, but basically that is reading out each word on the screen there. Now, when you get that to read out the French, it's not very good. I'm not a great speaker of the French language, but I do know that it doesn't sound like whatever this is. If it's a robotic word, it's bad enough in English speaking it, but at least you can understand it. I think the French and then the German is very difficult. It doesn't put it in context, but it's still a feature you can use to check whether you've got the grammar right and things like that. But let's have a look at the other paragraph. So there's a Spanish paragraph. If I highlight that, it's changing that to French. So I don't want it into French, I want it into English. And then you can see what that says. So that was a quote about Marcelo Bielsa, the Leeds manager. It's quite a nice quote on one of the comments. And then if I highlight the German text, this is just a quote from the newspaper. You can see straight away it converts it to English, and then the one for French to English. So you can change whichever language you've got selected to look at lots of different languages. All the way down there's a huge list of different languages. So for schools, this is quite cool. If you're doing a French course or a German course and you need to translate stuff or see what the word means, like I've already done, you can just click on the word and then it will give you that meaning in the different language. So if I go for, what haven't I done? Let's go for Greek. Yes, well, I wouldn't be able to pronounce that. But there you go. What does that mean? Yeah. So Greek is quite a difficult language, I think, to understand. So I'll put that back to something slightly easier for me anyhow, which is German. You click on a word and it just tends you down. You can also highlight a phrase to bend down there. So then the words make more sense. And then you've got the different options down the bottom there for German, as I've shown you already. So this is a feature that's available in certain versions of Office 365 Word and not necessarily in other versions such as Office 2016 or 2019. It depends what version you've got. Anyhow, that's all I want to talk about for today. That was a translator in Word, so thank you for your time and I'll see you on the next one. This is consolidation exercise 5, so you need to open this file and activate the review pane and change the markup options. So you're basically doing track changes on this one. Delete 3, just follow this down, and then at the bottom you are adding a comment and you're accepting all the changes and close the file, don't save it. Then you're opening these two files to compare them. That's just to practice going to compare, the compare feature. Once you've done that, you can just close the file, you don't need to save it, and that's the end of this exercise. That is now the end of the intermediate course. You can now go on and do the advanced course. If you're not doing the advanced course, that is the end of it. Thank you for your time.